So basically, to summarize to this point, overall, you've been fired from every job. Every business you've tried has failed. What did you do to get forward and pass that point? This is why I wanted to do the podcast with my brother, because only he can say stuff like that. So then tell me then, how'd you go forward from there? Because I'm guessing your YouTube weren't monetized then, right? No, it weren't monetized, and I didn't leave BT. I got fired from BT. So then, bro, tell us, because this ain't making sense. How was you eating? How was you surviving? I wasn't. But luckily, fortunately, how you want to look at it, lockdown was there. So, you know, living with mum and dad, we didn't have rent to pay or anything like that. Yeah. But I didn't have no income coming in, but then I didn't have no expenses going out because no one was going out. There's no car on my head anymore. The finance was paid off. There was nothing to really worry about like that. So you're breaking even for a short period. Yeah. I was the money I was spending was all my savings. And it was only like Amazon purchases and stuff just to get through lockdown out of boredom. Look, Raheem, this is such a random question, but you barely had any money saved up. I know that. So I want to know what your Amazon purchase was like. All right, CEOCAST equipment. So the cameras, the light, no, I didn't buy lighting. The microphones and cameras. That's the first thing I bought. That's the first heavy investment that I put into myself. So was that before or after your first podcast? That was after the first podcast. That was probably the fourth podcast in. Fourth? Yeah. So I wasn't making any money, but I was like, yeah, this is going to work. And I had full of self-belief. So I was like, let me spend some money and back myself here. So I think the equipment at the time cost about 1,500 quid. So I'm guessing then your self-belief went through the roof after the fourth podcast. I knew it was going to work. Yeah, I knew it was going to work. 100%. Why? How did you know it was going to work? Because there was no podcast showcasing business and entrepreneurship. And that's what I was doing. In the world, in the UK, where are we talking? I want to say the world, but I don't know about the world. But as far as I was looking, UK, you know, as I was in BT, I was watching podcasts and whatnot, and I couldn't find a podcast that focused on business entrepreneurship and different routes to take in life in the UK. In the UK, at least. I don't know about the world, but, you know, UK at least. So you're telling me there was no one in the UK that you could have taken inspiration from at the time? In terms of that category of podcast, no. There was podcasts that I took inspiration from. For example, I liked the likes of Freshly Grounded or True Geordie. I like the whole production setup, and that's why I invested heavy into the equipment. But in terms of conversation and the guests they're getting on, there was not really many people that I could take inspiration from. So I'd done this all in my own head sort of thing. And it's not in an ego way, but it's generally me saying it. So after you invested all this money into the podcast, did you feel like you had now upped the standard and the level of CEOCAST and you had to really think about who to get on and where to film and all that sort of stuff? No, it was never like that, because it was still building blocks, still building journey, right? So, you know, in lockdown had come, I started doing podcasts on Zoom. So done that for a bit and I hated it because the Zoom quality was dead. But I was still getting anyone on the podcast. Okay, so how were you actually preparing for the podcast? Were you writing script, writing questions? Yeah, in the beginning I was writing scripts and doing heavy research into the guests. I still do that today, to be fair. Not the scripts, but I still do heavy research into the guests. But yeah, I was getting anyone on the podcast really. Anyone who approached me saying, yeah, let's do a podcast. I was like, yeah, let's do it. Because at the end of the day, it was an extra episode. It was, you joke or you just vape straight into the camera. Vape that way. Yeah, it was extra podcasts, extra content, and more episodes. Yeah, and I knew from day one it was all about consistency, hard work, and making sure that I meet every Sunday 7 p.m. I set in my head Sunday 7 p.m. every single time, so I make sure I never miss that. So how did you manage to stay consistent and motivated in your darkest times? Because, you know, sometimes you can get lazy, sometimes you don't feel like eating, sometimes you feel like absolute crap and you don't want to get out of bed. I had no backup option, so it was either CEOCAST or nothing, or going back to being a bum. So for me, in my head, but even then, bro, that's what I'm saying, like there's no reward there. So how do you actually stay on that path? I just didn't want to work again, man. I wanted to always work for myself, and I was like, this is now or never. And if I go back on myself, I'm just gonna feel like I'm going back in life. And there's nothing wrong with working a 9 to 5, but I feel like some people are cut out to do more. And I don't know how to make this sound. But it must have been a specific thing at that point where it was driving you further, thinking, you know what, yeah, I can do this. Just my determination, self-belief. What, so it wasn't like your YouTube things like views or subscribers or anything like that? Subscribers, nothing like that. You got to bear in mind, by the time I had done my like 20th episode or something like that, I was still on 500 subscribers. I was still under 1,000 mark, which is not bad, to be fair. I mean, look, 500 is 500 subscribers. It's better than 0, isn't it? So it still gave you some sort of motivation. Yeah, of course it did. Because I was like, yeah, it's building, it's picking up. It was nowhere near I wanted it to be, but I was like, yeah, the second I hit 1,000 subscribers, I knew the criteria of how you get monetized and whatnot. So I was like, eventually this will pay off somehow. Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? So the determination, the hustle was there. And how long were you willing to show up and be consistent every single week? Bro, the quitting has never been in my head. I was willing to show up every single week, making sure I'm sharp and I'm on point. So if you had the podcast for, let's just say, 2 years consistently and you weren't growing, you'd still be doing it. I'll still be doing it. If someone took all the monetization sponsors away right now, I'll still be doing CEOCAST because the impact that it leaves on people. This is why I feel like the podcast was made for the people. Do you know what I mean? Like it's had a heavy impact on people and their lives. So tell me, let's get straight to the point. Which video made you feel like you're going clear? Like it's done.